But yeah, I talk really fast, so we have a lot of information to go over. Please feel free to like ask questions as we go, so I can get a break from talking really fast to slow me down a little bit. But it's always good that when we have like a bigger group and we review these things, because when one person asks a question, then it like helps everybody else to understand the question. Okay, so feel free to ask questions anytime. So a couple of things, a little bit about PSI. So how you get your license. In the state of Minnesota, you must be licensed to perform any of these services through the Board of Cosmetology. When we're talking about lashes, when we're talking about skincare, or when we're talking about nails, cosmetology, you must be licensed. So in order to be licensed, you have to go to school at a licensed cosmetology school, us. You get hours from us, and then you have to pass the state administered test at a separate testing facility, which we refer to as PSI. After that, you take the paper you get from us, the test results from PSI, and then you go to the Board of Cosmetology and you file for your license. It usually takes about 10 to 15 days if you are looking to work right away. Sometimes if you get on the website, you can search your own name and it will update faster than your license comes in the mail. So if you're looking to work, okay? Any questions there? No? Okay. A lot of times people don't understand that you need to have a license, and they work with just a certificate. There is nothing that regulates a certificate, so a certificate really doesn't count unless you have a license and then you get a certificate on top of that license. Does that make sense? So let's say, like for us nail techs, we have a license course here, but we also have a master class coming up in November. It is November. But at the end of November, and people can come to that master class if, number one, they're licensed, or if they just want to learn, that's fine as well, but they can't really take clients until they're both. So a certificate alone is not, you're not able to practice, okay? And then also there's been a big deal with like big scams, or I would call it a scam, where people are like, hey, come learn how to do nails, you can make 6 figures. Get a certificate, my class is $500, or same thing with lashing. That's very out there. People are not giving you the entire information that you need to be licensed as well. So for me, I tell you guys, after you get licensed, use that word everywhere. Like, just like, it's like you're a doctor, right? Like, you can get your Starbucks and be like, hi, my name is Marina and I'm a licensed, nail technician. I don't even care. But when you do your advertising, when you do business cards, anything like that, put Minnesota licensed lash technician, nail technician, whatever the case may be. It's just, I think it, and now that we're educated about it, we know, right? If we're online and we see people who are like, oh, I'm 5 times certified, but they don't use the word licensed, that means they're not able to work, okay? In order to obtain your lash or your nail license, you need to take 3 tests at PSI. So PSI is a state testing facility. There's one in Roseville, there's one in Edina. They're kind of spread out all over the Twin Cities. The link that I sent you, ladies, will have access, or will teach you where to find your spot, okay? At PSI, you must have, when you register, you must have a valid ID that has your name on it. So if it's clipped, they won't take it. When you register, use your complete full name as it shows on your ID. We had one of our students, she goes by Dee Dee. She registered as Dee Dee. When she got there, that's not her full name on her ID. They turned her away and they took her money. So make sure, that's really important to know. They are a state testing facility, so they are really strict. They don't just test for cosmetology, they test for dental, they test for real estate, they test for all sorts of stuff. So make sure when you get there, you need 2 forms of ID. So one valid ID, usually a credit card or something else that proves that you're you. They also will like for me, they had me like lift up my hair and pull up my sleeves. They'll have you lock your stuff away, and then you kind of go into a cubicle that looks like computer lab. If you ever went to like computer lab in high school or elementary, I'm old, so I don't know if that still exists anymore, but it's just like that, where it's just like little cubicles that you go in, you sign in, that's what you do, and that's how you take your test. Okay, so that's just a little bit. If you don't, like if you have a big purse and stuff like that, don't bother to bring it, because they have little small lockers like ours. So bring the stuff that you need to identify your stuff. They'll have you lock your stuff away. They'll check you over, make sure you're not cheating, because that's what their main concern is, and that's how that works. Yes?
Does the address have to be the same too, or
I don't.
is it just the name?
I think they're more concerned about the name.
Okay.
But if your address doesn't match your driver's license, I think I would just put the address on my driver's license. When you go to file for your license with the Board of Cosmetology, you can put your new address on there because that's the address they use to send it to you.
Okay.
Okay? So I think just because they're so strict, I would just rather go with what's on my ID because they're not going to send you anything.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the next part. Yes.
So, with that being said,
Uh-huh.
hopefully there's no problem because I register as like my new address.
Oh, okay. I would think, I feel like they're more about names, but I think you can still go in and change your information if you, within like 48 hours or something like that. So you might want to just log in, yeah, and check it out, see how it is. Because I think they're supposed to be strict because they're a licensing facility. I don't know how strict they are, but I know the name thing is a very big deal, and the validity of your license is also a big deal because like if it's clipped or something, they won't take it. After you take your test, everything is multiple choice, so don't worry too much about like where it says written practical. Everything is multiple choice. Take your time, slow down, and read each and every question so you have a good comprehension of what they're asking. I am a skimmer, and I get mad at myself because I don't read. Like I read 4 words and I'm like, oh, I got it. No, you have to pay attention because they'll use words like except or which one of these but and those types of things. And then too, they will always go with what they think is the best answer. And you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times, but like when you're washing your implements, you're sanitizing, things like that, you always want to say like the water temperature is warm because that's the best answer. Okay? Like one of the options might be hot, one of the options might be cold, but the best answer is warm. So always go with what you think is the best answer. But I promise you guys, slowing down and reading is a really, really huge part of it because I've had people who come in or they'll text me. By the way, I expect you guys to all text me when you pass because I celebrate a little bit when you pass. So please text me when you pass. But I've had people who have texted me and after 20 minutes of their check-in time, like, oh, I failed my test. And I'm like, it's been 20 minutes. Like, what do you expect? Where I've had that same day, somebody text me an hour and 15 minutes later and was like, I passed all of them. Thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. So definitely take your time, slow down, read the question. A couple of things. When you do pass, as soon as you walk out, they print a little piece of paper with your picture on it and it'll say pass. You must have the originals when you file for your license, okay? And it is very, very hard to get a new one. So Sadie was so excited when she passed. She got in her car. She called me. She's like, I passed them all, blah, blah, blah. And she threw her PSI results somewhere in her car, which is just like typical 20-year-old car. Like got shoes, makeup, water bottle. I don't even know what else. And in doing that, trying to relocate them, trying to contact PSI, it was just a pain in the ass. So make sure you keep track of those. So, any questions there? Yes.
How much is the test again?
So, the tests for the lash, there's 3 portions. Each portion is about $23 to $25.
Okay. Is it time test?
Yes, it is time.
Okay.
And I can give you a better breakdown of the time. I want to say it's like an hour and a half per section. I don't think anybody ever needs that. Tests, there's going to be 3 tests. Your first test is going to be on theory. And that is about $23 or $25, somewhere around there, okay? Theory means it's on what you learned online. So all the things that you learned online, that is the theory. The second test is the written practical. Also around $23 or $25. So the written practical portion of the test is going to be what you learned in school. So basically everything that I taught you guys in class, okay? The third portion of the test is the Minnesota laws and rules. Also about $23 or $25. So you need all 3 of those passing in order to file for your license, okay? The Minnesota law and rules is a little tricky, which is why we're having this session because it's on everything, okay? It's not just on nails. It's not specifically to lashes. It's not specifically to Cosmo. It's on all the Minnesota laws and rules as pertaining to cosmetology. The theory and the written practical, these are for what you're learning. So this will be for lashes for you guys, for nails for you guys. Okay? Minnesota laws and rules, again, about $23 to $25. Now, if you pass all three, perfect. If you maybe miss one section, you only have to pay to retake that one section. You don't have to take all three again. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So let's say I failed one of the tests.
We don't use that F word here.
I'm not trying to fail.
We use a lot of F words.
In case other people might want to ask this question.
Right.
So if I fail, can I take it the same day or?
You can't. You have to go and reschedule. That's a really good question. So you actually have to reschedule for the next day.
Do you have to take all those tests? It's all in one day. Right?
Yeah, it's all in one day. You know what, you guys? It's kind of misleading that it's just like, think of it as one big test broken up into 3 parts. Yeah, and because it's kind of misleading saying that it's 3 different tests, but that's how they want you to kind of word it. But yeah, you can't. You take all 3 in the first time. You take all 3 at one time. Okay.
Is the testing station, is it just open like Monday through Friday?
No, they're open on Saturday as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what you need in order to obtain your license. So right now, you guys, there's kind of like a bonus. And I don't know what you guys plan to do after you leave here, but we are fully, I think, spending enough time with us. We're always like, be your own boss, be an entrepreneur, do what you want to do. Back in the day, you used to have to be licensed for 3 years or 2,700 hours. Then what you would have to do is study the Minnesota laws and rules again, take the Minnesota laws and rules test, and then file for your license to become a salon manager. Okay? Right now, you guys, they let you do it now when you apply for your license. So it is the exact same information as the Minnesota laws and rules, and it's like a 2-for-1. And if you guys want to, I know some people are like, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna go work with my sister, blah, 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 whatever. You never know, don't cap yourself off, because you might wanna expand, right? And then you would have to go do all that and pay another filing fee with the Board of Cosmetology, okay? So right now, I highly, highly recommend you guys do that. So the Salon Manager's test, that one is $48. But it is so worth it, because if you wanna open your own salon in your house, or you wanna rent a salon suite, or you just wanna open, you know what, I'm gonna be a big boss, I'm just gonna open my own setup and you guys can all work under me, right, and booth rent from me. Having a salon manager's license is very important to do that. So you don't have to, but I highly, highly, highly recommend it.
Do we get a study guide on that too?
Yep, I do talk to you guys about it, and I'll go over some questions, but if you have a good understanding of what we talk about the Minnesota laws and rules today, more than likely you're gonna pass. A lot of people have actually said that it's easier to take the salon manager's test than the Minnesota laws and rules. And also when you book for this, make sure you pick salon managers. How they set up PSI is a little confusing, but some people accidentally choose like school managers. You want to be a salon manager. Again, these 3 are optional. This one I just highly, highly recommend. And what you want to do is after you pass these tests, you take those papers, you take the paper from me, and then that's when you file for your application with the Board of Cosmetology for $195. Okay? So the application for the board is $195. When you sign up for PSI, they have 2 testing times every day, which is why that was a good question, Hannah. It's Monday through Saturday, and they have 2 time sessions every day. So you either sign up for the 9 o'clock one or the 1 o'clock one at your location that you're going to. They want you to show up 30 minutes early. So last time when I had a study session like this, some of my students actually went straight from here to the Roseville testing location, which is like 5 minutes from here, and took their test at 1. So you have to show up 30 minutes before your testing time, because that's when they kind of check you in, and then they have everybody kind of going at the same time into the computer lab room. So that's how that works. So when you are picking your place, make sure that you can plan to be there 30 minutes before your time. Okay?
To comment that, you have to pay for your test before you can select your location.
Yep, you do. Thank you. It's kind of backwards how that works, but yep, you have to register and then pay for your test, and then you'll be able to find your location and time afterwards. So that is kind of a little bit about how PSI and obtaining your license works. A couple of things when we're talking about the test that I want to just bring up random points as well that'll pop up along the way. Microblading is very important to understand that microblading in Minnesota is regulated, but it is not regulated by the Board of Cosmetology. Okay? So microblading is regulated, but it is not regulated by the Board of Cosmetology. Microblading is a body art license, and that is regulated by the Minnesota Department of Health. Okay? It pops up a lot on the test, and it'll be like, which of these is not regulated? Microblading is not regulated. Because when we're taking the test, they're going to refer to the environment is the cosmetology and what the Board of Cosmetology is about. Does that kind of make sense? So you'll see when they're talking about the environment, the test is about the Board of Cosmetology, so it only is asking questions about the Board of Cosmetology. So that one it confuses a lot of people. Protective coverings, when they refer to protective coverings, they are things such as masks, gloves, pedicure liners. For you lash techs, it would be like the
Tree.
yes, the cover for the tray, like the
plastic.
yep, like the bibs,
Oh.
the paper bibs. Those types of things are considered protective coverings. Water temperature should always be warm, never hot or cold. You guys know I like to repeat stuff because repetition is the key to good learning. That's how I remember things too. Safety data sheet. So it's an informational sheet that details the use, ingredients, and hazards of a product. So have you guys ever bought like makeup or some type of cream and you opened it up and there's like that little piece of paper that nobody reads? That is called the safety data sheet. You need to have one in your salon that details the list of ingredients of your disinfectant. Okay? Does that make sense? The reason being, they want to know if something happens, you understand the chemical makeup. It usually tells you what to do if somebody swallows it, that kind of thing. So the safety data sheet is needed. You have to have it. We have ours printed out, you guys, but if you know how to access it, if State Board comes in and says, hey, where's your safety data sheet for your disinfectant? And you know, like, hey, I'm going to go to the Barbicide website. This is exactly where it is. That's fine as well. But you need to know what it is. Okay?
We only need that for the disinfectant.
They haven't asked for, I've never run into them asking for anything else. But I definitely would say if you have a special product, you might just want to know where to have that as a resource. Okay? But yeah, it's mainly for your disinfectant. Prohibited materials. So MMA and skin cutting equipment such as the cradle blade, those types of things are prohibited in your salon. So MMA, have questions about, do you guys remember like going into the nail salon like maybe 5-10 years ago and you have that really strong smell? That is MMA, and that is not allowed in your salon. So none of your products should have it, and that's more pertaining to us nail techs in our monomer and our polymer. Okay? And cradle blades or any skin cutting equipment for lash techs, you're not supposed to have anything that like punctures the skin in your salon, so you shouldn't have any razors or anything like that. For us, a cradle blade is that blade that used to be widely used in salons that actually like shaves the dead skin off your feet. And I'm not talking about like the cheese grater one. It literally looked like maybe like a carrot peeler, and it would just slice. Yeah, it was crazy. So they sell those for personal use. I don't recommend it for personal use anyway, but you definitely cannot have that in the salon. Safety agencies, it's a good idea to know what they are. So OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Agency. It regulates your workplace, your safety and health. The FDA, Food and Drug Administration, regulates food and drugs to protect our public health. And the EPA, which is most important for us, EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency. The reason they're important is that is who approves and registers our disinfectant. That's why the EPA is important. So infection control, infectious diseases and pathogens. Infectious diseases are disorders caused by organisms such as bacteria, virus, fungi, and parasites. Some infectious diseases can be passed from one person to another. We are responsible to reduce our risk of spreading an infectious disease by maintaining strict sanitation procedures. A part of you obtaining your license means that you understand the rules and guidelines pertaining to sanitation. It's our duty to make sure everything in our area is clean and sanitized and disinfected as our tools. So this brings us to cleaning, sanitation, and disinfection. We talked about this a few times in class, but I just want to remind you guys, I love my word association. Like I said, if you get confused, sanitation starts with S, soap starts with S. if you're confused as to like, okay, what steps they are, when you're using soap, that is considered sanitizing, okay? When you're moving on to an EPA registered disinfectant like barbicide, that's when you use the word disinfecting. Anytime you use your tools, you want to clean the debris off first. With you lash techs with acetone, with us nail techs, we could also use acetone. Get rid of the dust first before you bring it over to the sink, okay? Sanitation would be using a soap, detergent, or cleanser. Disinfection is using an EPA registered disinfectant, barbicide, which is a common brand. Mixing disinfectant. So always remember, start with water first and always follow manufacturer's directions on mixing. Disinfectant is to be mixed daily in the morning and throw it away at night. So again, start with water first. Always follow your manufacturer's directions on mixing. Mix it daily, mix it in the morning, throw it away at night. Procedure for tools and implements. First, you're gonna wanna clean, which means removing the debris. Then you're gonna wanna sanitize, which means scrubbing using the brush, soap, and warm water, and then rinse. Then you're gonna disinfect. Follow the disinfectant manufacturer's directions on time. Then you're gonna remove your tools, rinse again with warm water, pat dry, and then you're gonna store in a labeled, clean, closed container. So don't forget that we have to rinse it after we take it out of the disinfectant. Procedure for equipment and work surfaces. You're gonna clean, which means remove the debris, and sanitize using cleaning spray or wipe to sanitize. Follow the manufacturer's directions on what chemicals can be used on the surface. So why this is important, you always want to follow the manufacturer of your equipment to see what kind of disinfectant works. So like our lash beds, for instance, there's certain disinfectants that you can't use on that material. Even our tables here, there's certain disinfectants that you can't use here. If you look at some of the shields, somebody sprayed a bleach spray and you can see the spots on there and it's there forever. So always follow the manufacturer's directions on your equipment. What we're going to talk about is decontamination. So decontamination, there is method 1 and method 2. Decontamination method 1, that's what we use, and I always tell people we use method 1 because we are number 1, okay? Method 1 means to clean, sanitize, and use an EPA disinfectant. Method 2 means to clean, sanitize, and sterilize, which means it removes spores. So method 2 is when they use like an autoclave, or when they use like when you like go to the dentist and the hygienist tools, or if you're having plastic surgery, you're getting a tattoo, what they use to kill the spores, that's in decontamination method 2. Okay, use number 1 because all we do, our steps are to clean, sanitize, and disinfect. So that's method 1. That's what we use because we are number 1. Okay, single and multi-use items. Single-use items are to be used one time and thrown away immediately. Examples: anything porous, files, buffers, sanding bits, that's for us nail techs, orange wood sticks, paper towels, cotton balls. For you lash techs, it would be like micro swabs, spoolies, the mascara ones, all those things that are porous. Those are one-time use, one client, throw it away. Back to my word association, multiple use items are typically metal. Multi-use starts with M. Metal starts with M. That's because you can use it multiple times because you can sanitize and disinfect them. I will say when an inspector comes, if you have a single-use item that is just laying on your station, like a file or a mascara wand, and it's just laying there, you're not using it, but you didn't throw it away, that would be considered a violation. That's why I make you guys, as you're working, just put stuff down, throw it away, throw it away. Remember to always kind of keep your work area clean. Any single-use items that's just sitting out in the open is considered contaminated, throw it away. Prevention of cross-contamination. Cross-contamination is when you transfer harmful bacteria from one person, object, or place to another. Prevent cross-contamination by making sure you are keeping a clean and sanitized environment, sanitize area, equipment, station, and wash hands in between clients. So for example, I feel like a lot of people don't understand cross-contamination and how important it is, especially now with COVID. When I see people go grocery shopping, they literally touch everything, and then they're wearing gloves, but they touch everything with their gloves on, and then they'll like sip their coffee with their gloves on. Like it doesn't make sense to me, but I think people just don't understand how important it is. So for instance, for you lash techs, you have your glam core light, right, or your lashing light. So let's say you are working on Regina. Regina has a sty, right? So you're working on her, and you are done with her, and you're touching her eye, and you touch the light, okay? She leaves, and then I come in, I lay down, you don't clean that light, but you touch that same light, and you touch my eye. So something as highly contagious as a sty, that would be considered cross-contamination, and then now I have a sty.
We don't work on people doing studies, right?
You shouldn't, but sometimes, you know, like, you don't even see,
Yeah.
right? And it might be starting, or if it might be like it might not even be a sty, it might just be a bump that's been there for a little bit. But I will always say though, you guys, if you are not comfortable or if you see something, always kind of put yourself ahead of it and just be like, hey, you know, the services might not have the best results at this time. Like, these lashes might not have the best results at this time. Why don't I rebook you for 2 weeks when that clears up a little bit, right? I think now we have to really focus on professionalism. You can't just be like, oh, that's gross, go away, you know? Or you can't be like, hey, there's $200, I need to pay my car payment. You know what I mean? Like, not all money is good money, because you never know what can kind of spread from that. Just like the story I told you about my lady who was doing brows. Like, it's not worth it to me to take the $200 to do her brows if I'm you know, I might have the possibility of contaminating somebody. So I would always say, like, even with feet, sometimes you're like, I don't know about that. If you're not comfortable, you can definitely just be very transparent, but in a nice way say, you know what, this might not, like, you wouldn't get the best results from the service at this time. I don't want to trigger anything else that might be happening or spread anything. And I think most people are pretty reasonable. And if they're not, then you don't really want to work on them anyway, right? Like, if they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, if, you know, like, that's totally fine, I'm okay with it. And then you're like, you know what, but I'm not okay with it. That's okay. So standard precautions for exposure incidents and procedure. So obviously you guys aren't doing anything where people should be like openly bleeding in your shop. But this is for bodily fluids or any type of biohazard such as that, right? So if, let's say, I went out last night, I'm super hungover, and as I was sitting in your pedicure chair, I just like threw up, right? So what you have to do is understand that there's a standard procedure when you're exposed to bodily fluids. So step 1, you always want to protect yourself first by putting on gloves, okay? Step 2, you want to clean with paper towels, like disposable ones, because you want to be able to throw it away. Step 3, we're going to clean with an EPA disinfectant. Step 4, we're going to put everything in one bag. Step 5, we're actually going to put it in another bag. So you're going to double bag it. Step 6, you're going to apply a biohazard sticker. And then step 7, throw away. So biohazard stickers in your salon too, when you guys have your own shop or when you're working in a salon, there should be like that heavy duty, like the biggest first aid kit that you can possibly buy at the store should be in your salon anyway. And in there's gloves, there's eye wash, there's biohazard stickers, and all that is in your first aid kit. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through this one more time because I want you guys to understand the steps. So step 1, protect yourself, grab gloves. Step 2, you're going to clean up the mess. Then you're going to clean it with a disinfectant, right? You're going to put it in one bag. You're going to put it in another bag, slap a biohazard sticker on it, and throw it away. Why that's important, why 2 bags is important is because you don't want anything to leak. Why a biohazard sticker is important is because, let's say that was my client, but it's her turn to throw out the garbage. She doesn't know, and she reaches in there, that at least she's alerted and she's aware that, hey, there's a biohazard in there, okay? Minnesota laws and rules for cosmetology. This will contain helpful information for you to take the state exam as well as the Salon Manager exam. So definitions. Cosmetologists can perform all services, hair, skin, eyelash, and nails. Are you guys all familiar with that? An AP esthetician, so I always say it kind of breaks off. Cosmo, and you have an AP esthetician, and then you have an SD, and then we have lash techs. The lash techs can only perform lash services. Moving the way down, all these people can perform lash services as well. And then for us, we're this way, we're by ourselves, we do nails. So you understand the different definitions. So in order to be licensed, you must go to school, pass your PSI exams, and then apply for license with the Board of Cosmetology for $195. To renew your license, you must renew your license every 3 years on the last day of your birthday month. Example, October 20 means you must renew every 3 years by October 31st. Your license expires every 3 years on the last day of your birthday month. So when's your birthday?
December the 22nd.
Okay, so New Year's Eve every 3 years. Did we kind of catch that? So every 3 years on the last day of your birthday month, you have to do continuing education and actually complete that by the date it expires. Mine expires Halloween every 3 years. I've been licensed for like, I don't even know, 20 something years now, right? And I'm a last minute person. So I was like, oh, that's totally fine, whatever. And I went to take my kids trick-or-treating. And I had a few drinks, and then I came home and I was like, yeah, I'll do it, whatever. So I did my continuing education and I went online to renew after midnight. And because of that, they charged me an extra $45 to renew my license right after midnight. So please make sure you get it done in time. I'll share another story with you as well. I was doing nails. I had a shop, right? My license expired. And I was so busy. I was running my shop and I didn't even think about my license being expired. Then after about 4 months, I got a phone call and it was like, hi, this is such and such from the Board of Cosmetology. We noticed that your license is expired, but you still have your name on your salon license, right? So they knew that like I had a salon license, but they knew that my personal license was expired. So she said, have you been doing nails while your license is expired? And I'm like an honest person, right? So I was like, yes, I've been doing nails. I'm so sorry. I just haven't had time to renew it. And she said, let me ask you again. Have you been doing nails while your license is expired? And I didn't get it. And I was like, yes. 2 weeks later, I received a letter that said I was fined $800 plus I was guilty of a misdemeanor for working unexpired license. And I just didn't even think about it. Like I literally, you guys, I try to be an honest person anyway. She tried to help me. She was like, let me ask you again, save you some money. But so working on expired license is a big no-no. And if you pull my name up on the Board of Cosmetology website, it says like, I think it was like from 10 or 12 years ago. It says like my violation working on an expired license, and it still follows me to this day. So make sure your license is always valid and active. I've had friends that have like, oh, I moved on to a different career, like I don't need this license anymore. It's good to just keep it up anyway. Even if you've like done something else, like you found a sugar daddy, whatever it may be, and you're like, hey, I don't need to do nails, I don't need to do lashes anymore. Even if it expires, it is so worth it to keep it up because you just never know. It's good money you could go back to. It's a great side job. Just keep it up. You renew. So this is important for you guys to understand too. Did we all have an understanding of when it expires? Yes. Okay. To renew, you need 8 hours of continuing education. 4 of those hours are core, which means it's on the laws and rules, the current laws and rules. The other 4 hours are professional practice, which means it's something pertaining to your trade. And it must be board approved. So these classes must be board approved. So you can't just take like a class and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to use this for continuing education. It must be board approved. So for instance, right now we have an online 8-hour continuing education. It has both. The core is the most current Minnesota laws and rules, and the professional practice is on social media marketing and how to market your business. But that covers, and it's board approved. So you can literally just take it all in one day, okay? Or for you lash techs, let's say like 2.5 years from now, there is a awesome new lash technique. If that class is approved by the board, you can use that and apply towards your continuing education. Same with us nail techs, there's always like new products out. Or like how Svetlana likes the polygel. If we had an actual class on that and it was a board approved, you could take that class and that would go towards your continuing education. Okay? There are changes to your individual license. You have 30 days to report to the board, like a name change or address. I think we talked about that. You have 30 days to report to the board. There are many different types of salons. You must apply for license through the board. So, a home-based salon is a salon that is based inside your home. So after you get licensed here, you guys, some of you are going to be like, hey, I want to go home. I'm going to start lashing out of my house. you are supposed to have a license for your home. So it's a separate application. You go to the Board of Cosmetology website, you download it, and it will tell you all the requirements that you need to have. And then you apply for your salon license through the Board of Cosmetology, okay? Requirements for home, I think people have asked me before. I can tell you off the top of my head, you have to have a sink in your, you have to have a dedicated space, and that space can't be like where anybody's living or sleeping, okay? So let's say you have a separate room. It has to have, you have to have access to a dispensary sink so that you can disinfect and sanitize your tools. You cannot have carpet in that room. But there's other more details, but you have to look at the application and make sure you follow that, okay? A suite style salon, I think some of you guys might be familiar with that. A suite style salon is like if you go into like a big salon and they have small little rooms that people rent out, that's your own individual space. That is considered a suite style salon. This question about nursing homes comes up very frequently on the test, so I'm just gonna kind of break it down for you guys, okay? So there's two things. There is a person who is considered homebound. So that is a person who cannot leave their house, like due to medical reasons. That person is homebound, right? In order for you to service me, you need to apply for a homebound permit. There are homebound people in a nursing home, but if you want to perform services for someone in a nursing home, you also have to have a homebound permit. If you want to open a salon inside a nursing home, you need a salon license. Because that I can tell you guys comes up regularly on the manager's test as well, that you have to kind of understand the difference of that, okay? So a homebound client is somebody who cannot leave their home due to medical reasons, like maybe they're unable to walk or unable to be transported or they're sick. If you want to perform services on them, you need a homebound permit. So that, and then if you want to open a salon inside a nursing home, like an actual salon, like hey, Marina's House of Nails or something inside the nursing home, I need to have a salon license. Kind of all understand the difference there. MC, that's a really good question about permits. They also, the next thing that we're going to talk about is special event permits. Like a special, have you guys seen like wedding conventions or tattoo conventions where people go and like you actually get tatted there or you can get services there? You need to pull up, bless you. You need to get a permit for that as well. To the Board of Cosmetology website and you apply for a permit, and that is for either a homebound permit or a event permit. Thank you. I know like in like places down south, they have like mixers where they have like parties, right? Where you're like, oh, okay, you can come to this bar, you can get your lashes done, and you can get your nails done with sell tickets or whatever the case may be. If you want to have an event like that, you need to have a special permit, okay? Services that the Board of Cosmetology does not control are microblading, hair braiding, threading, tattoos, and tanning, just to name a few. So there's a lot of other things, but sometimes people get kind of confused with these ones. Microblading, hair braiding, threading, tattoos, and tanning. So operating requirements for a salon. All products and chemicals are locked away in the dispensary or supply room. Remember, anything that you're using, even that like cleaning products, anything like that, Windex, Tide Pods, we talked about that, bleach, anything needs to be locked away. The main concern is to have one of our clients come in and like have a child and who like will accidentally ingest that or anything crazy along those lines. Towels, you need clean linens for each person. So I used to use the word new linens for each person, and I guess that is confusing. Like you don't need to have like brand new from the store linens, they just need to be clean. And each person gets a clean one, okay? Please make sure the HVAC is turned on during business hours. No intoxicants or controlled substances are allowed. So technically, like, you know, some of the places who offer like champagne or whatever at their salons, they're not supposed to. But I feel like people do it anyway. But I would say just know that you're not supposed to. If there are changes to salon license, such as name or ownership, it must be reported within 60 days. So if it's you personally, like I'm changing my last name, I'm changing my address, 30 days. If I'm changing my salon information, 60 days. Okay? So if I'm changing my name from Marina's House of Nails to Bow's Beauty Shop, 60 days. If you are in violation of any laws and rules, the individual can be fined $1,000, the salon manager $2,000, and the owner $3,000. So inspections. Have any of you guys ever, do any of you guys work in a salon now? Nobody? Okay.
So a question.
Mm-hmm.
So like for the violation law, you know, the violation fee, like the fee. So if you're the individual, the salon owner, or and the manager, would you get fined for all three?
Quite possibly, yes. Because what they, so basically when you obtain these different licenses, that means you're holding the responsibility, right? But so that means you should have known better to, number one, not do that yourself. And then you're the manager, you're supposed to tell the person, you know what I mean? So, but I will say that some people are kind of confused between owner and salon manager as well. Anybody can own a salon, like anybody. Like my mailman can own a salon. He has no knowledge of salon or anything like that, but he has money, right? He can own a salon. So that's why salon manager is very important, because that person is trained and licensed to run and manage a salon. But the owner is supposed to be the salon manager's boss, right? So that's kind of how that works. Okay, so inspections. I have been in the industry for 20 something years, and every time an inspector comes, I still freak out. Like I just get really nervous. I want to make sure all my stuff is done and in order. And it's very important. I think it's just like a, I don't know, maybe it's a female thing or maybe it's a minority thing. When somebody comes in like that, you're just like, oh my God, I'm gonna get in trouble. I used to work in DC, and like the inspectors would come and my boss would like pay the inspector $200 and they would just leave. It's crazy. But inspections are very important, and they're the reason why our licenses are important, right? They are the ones who kind of keep us safe, make sure we're in line, to make sure that we keep the environment safe and our clients are safe. With that being said, Regina and I are so proud. We are on our second inspection with no violations. And I think we've only had one violation since our school was open, and that was completely my fault. I had a file that I used to soften my other files, score file. And I had that in a box that was with brand new files. And because it had marks in it, it was considered used. So that was considered a violation. Okay? I will say though too, with the inspectors, you kind of just be polite, let them do their job, and you should be good. Okay? I used to work in a salon where my buddy, he was just your typical dude, and for some reason he would use buffers all day long, and he would not throw them in the garbage. He would just put them in his station, even though the garbage is right there, right? And it was just infuriating. One day, an inspector walks in, and he saw the inspector come in, and he turns his back, and he starts throwing all these buffers away all fast. And then too, he was speaking in another language, so he was speaking Vietnamese and throwing these buffers away. And he was like, "Inspector's here, like everybody clean up, blah blah blah." And the inspector's like, "What are you doing?" Like, I'm right here. You know what I mean? And that just, after that, everything he found was a violation. Okay, so I just kind of let them do their job. They're usually very pleasant, and now that we've gotten to know them, we've been a little more comfortable with them. We know kind of what they're looking for. If you keep a really good, nice and clean environment like we showed you guys how to, you're usually not going to have any problems. Okay?
How often do they visit?
So for salons, it's typically at least once or twice a year. If you have a lot of violations, they will show up more. Okay? A couple of things too, when they show up, if there is a violation, you wouldn't get fined right away. Well, then what you get is an OTC. So an OTC is considered order to comply. And you have 10 days to fix your violation, okay? So if that file was sitting right here, and what they do is they would take a picture of it, boop, and then it shows up on your violation list. So what you would do is throw that file away, take a picture of it no longer being there, and you can say, this is my violation, this is how I corrected it, and send it in. You have 10 days to do that. And usually that fixes everything. But if you get a lot of violations, they will come more frequently, okay? So, excuse me, inspection. So when an inspector arrives, they will show you an ID. All your employees must have valid license and valid picture ID. Previous inspection reports must be displayed and available. So we always keep ours right by the door there. All salons should do that and have it readily available. Now that you guys know too, if you're curious and you walk into a salon, you're like, man, it looks a little sketchy in here. You can definitely ask them for an inspection report, or it should be already up, okay? Actually, it should be up in general. It's very important that when you, as a technician, you keep your license at your station, or you can keep it displayed in the front area. I suggest keeping it at your station. So if you have multiple people, everybody should have their licenses at their station. They also need to have a picture ID with them on at all times, okay? The inspector will take a picture of your license, and then we'll take a picture of your driver's license of everybody in the salon, and it has to match, okay? If violations are found, okay, we talked about this, you must send corrections within the board for 10 days. All license for individual and salon must be displayed where people can see, in reception area or at stations. Any advertisement must have name of the salon or individual technician as recognized by the board to be available to look up. So this is why this is important. So like if you have nicknames that you use and you're advertising under your nickname, so like my grandma calls me Mana because she can't say Marina. So let's say Mana's my nickname, and I name my salon like Mana's House of Beauty, right? But underneath it, it should say owner, license, Minnesota licensed salon manager, Marina Vong. Okay? Reason being is if people see your advertisements out there, they want to be able to look you up on the Board of Cosmetology website and make sure that number one, your salon is licensed, and number two, that that's actually you, you're a licensed individual. So any type of advertising you have, always make sure that your name, your official like name, your listed name is on your advertisement. Okay, so this is a little bit more of a focus on salon manager. DLSM is the designated licensed salon manager. What that means is we all got our manager's license. We all did a great job. We all decided to work together, but only one of us is the designated licensed salon manager. Okay, so the mailman hired all 6 of us, right? We're all working for the mailman, but we're all salon managers. Are we all in charge? No. Only one person, which is the designated licensed salon manager, is in charge. Okay? That person must, when you apply for your salon license, you have to put their name on there first. Okay? So, Tamaya, you're going to be our designated licensed salon manager. So when I go to apply for my salon license, it says on there, who is your salon manager? I put your name down, that means you're in charge. When the inspector comes in, you're in charge, you're the manager, that's you. Okay? You have 10 days if you no longer want to be manager there to notify the board. They always have to have someone that's a designated licensed salon manager. And if there are any changes, you have 10 days. And they will reach out to you. Like if they will reach out to you and be like, hey, who's the manager for your business because this person said they quit. Okay? And if you do quit, like Tamaya no longer wants to work for the mailman, she wants to own her own. If you do quit, make sure you let the board know yourself within 10 days, because otherwise if an inspector comes in and they're like, yo, mailman, where's your manager? Where's Tamaya? She's still listed here. And then, you know what I mean? Anything that happens, you would be responsible for. Okay?
So if your salon manager is no longer there,
Mm-hmm.
would you just be the designated license?
You can make yourself, but you would have to make those changes with the board.
Okay.
So you could definitely, yeah, if you are a licensed salon manager, you could change it to your name. You just have to make those changes with the board so they know. They just need to know who they're looking for when they come in, basically.
Okay. So if you didn't have one though, would that be like a problem?
You have to have one in order to obtain a salon license.
Oh, okay.
So they wouldn't even, like in the application. So let's say you want to open a salon next door. You have to fill out a salon license application. In that application, it's going to say, who is your designated licensed salon manager? They wouldn't even let they wouldn't give you a license if you didn't have a person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're reporting like the changes,
Mhm.
do you just kind of like, is there a phone number to call?
You can go onto the board website, and there's usually like different applications that you can apply. There is a phone number, but they're gonna make you do paperwork of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah, of some sort. And the board, that's another good question actually. The board is not in person right now. They are working remote. Their location is on University Avenue, actually by our studio. So if you guys are familiar with like, I think it's like University and between Lexington and Dale. It's right there. If you want to bring your application there, they have a drop box outside of their offices. And it is an office building, so I feel like it's open Monday through Saturday. You can walk into the office building, and there's a board of cosmetology, and they have it looks like a mailbox. Put your applications here, or you can send it in. Any questions? Okay, I'm just gonna review a couple of things that are like FAQs or people that come back and ask about. So, if you are in violation of Minnesota rules, you are guilty of a misdemeanor. The dispensary is where we keep our products. Mixing EPA registered disinfectant, always per manufacturer. I ate a big dinner last night, so I feel a little fatter. Manufacturer's directions, water first, mix daily and dispose of daily. Get clean linens, towels for every client before service. Close containers for linens, clean and dirty. So no matter if they're clean or dirty, the towels need to be in closed containers. Your garbage, you take it out daily, but you sanitize it weekly. So remember what sanitize means? Soap and water, right? So take your garbage out, throw it away every day, but you want to sanitize it once a week. High areas of traffic that people touch a lot too, doorknobs, door handles, anything like that, you want to clean that daily. Okay? Hypoallergenic, HYPO, are products that are great for people with sensitivities. I think people get confused between hypo and hyper. Porous items are single-use items, example files and buffers. Orange wood sticks for us nail techs, those are porous items. Mascara wands, spoolies for you lash techs. SDS, safety data sheet, pertains to disinfectants, must be accessible to all employees and technicians. Licenses displayed should be conspicuous location in salon or at your stations. Picture identification on you at all times. And I really must stress this, you guys. Make sure you have your ID, or your techs have their ID. There was an influx of people sharing licenses. Like for instance, let's say I am a nail tech. I stopped doing nails for a long time, but maybe I have a friend who needed to find a job and she didn't have the means to acquire a license, and I gave her my license just to like hang up. That is a no-no, obviously. But that's a big reason why now they require ID, because before they didn't used to, and then they saw that that was happening quite a bit, so that's why. Okay, so they will really look on that. Marketing, we talked about that. Name our salon as listed on the license. HVAC must be on during business hours. Sanitize versus disinfect. Don't forget, sanitize is soap. When they ask who is responsible for the salon, it's the manager that's responsible, and then the owner. Permits are required for special events and homebound services. You guys all understand the differences there? Oh, mobile salon. So a mobile salon also needs a salon license. So some people have like, let's say you want to have like a pedicure in a van. Actually, that sounds kind of creepy. You want to put your feet in my van? But if you were to have that service, or you wanted your van to be a mobile salon, you need a license for that. Okay? Again, we understand applying for a license, not a permit. This would be like an actual application where you apply for a license. Salon in a nursing home requires a salon license. Designated licensed salon manager must inform the board of writing to be relieved of responsibilities in 10 days. 30 days for personal license changes, and 60 days for salon. So that is kind of a good overview, I think, on the salon Minnesota laws and rules, and the Salon Manager. I definitely would recommend you guys studying at home. I will say though, this is a lot of information that I got back from like feedback to really review, which is why I'm going over it with you. It's good to have a good understanding. Some people will go and take the test and be like, well, why was I asked a question about hair when I don't do hair? It's because it's in general Minnesota laws and rules for everybody in cosmetology, not just specifically for our trade or skill. But other than that, I think that's it. You guys can kind of do your own theory and practical studying for you lash techs. I would say there's a couple of things that they can talk about in the classroom later that you guys can review. But it's pretty much a lot of it is common sense. Slow down and read the question, because once you understand the question, that's when you can figure out what the best answer is. Okay?